Welcome into the spring sports season finale of This Week in Anderson High School Athletics here at ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports. My name is Jason Griefer, and for the last time this spring sports season, we're joined by Anderson AD Chris Newton and assistant AD Zach McCormick. Boys, good to have you back with us here one more time. Let's get right into it. Zach, I'll start with you, and let's start talking about your baseball team to get things going here because they have really found their stride as of late. They've won 7 of 8 to close the regular season. They did get 10 ECC wins for the first time since 2017, so big accomplishment there. Obviously, riding hot into the tourney opener against Wilmington coming up here. I'm wondering, though, Zach, and the way we've talked in the last number of weeks about just the overall brutality of this ECC and how it just at times seemed to kind of cannibalize itself, given that the league was so bunched together as far as the league standings go. I'm wondering if you thought maybe that toughness within the league and everybody beating up on everybody maybe cost your team a better seed and the opportunity to avoid an Oak Hills potentially in round 2.
Yeah, I mean, the ECC is a super tough league. So when you're constantly beating each other up, I mean, you're obviously not going to be seated as high as if you're playing in a league where you're just running through it and you go undefeated or lose a couple games. But man, that's what you want. That makes the whole entire year fun. If you're just beating up on everybody or getting beat up on every game, I mean, sure, it could be fun when you're winning, but I mean, when you're going out and competing every single game, I mean, that's what it's all about. And then that just prepares you for, I mean, we have Wilmington today, which I'm an old Hurricane, so I'm actually excited for them to come down, even though I'm definitely pulling for Anderson and our orange and black. I'm excited for them to come down and get to see them. But I definitely think that the ECC prepares everybody in the league great for tournament play. And we hope that all of the ECC, especially Anderson, represents us well. And hopefully that we'll make a little run here in the tournament.
Get your team battle tested, and also take note, folks. Zach McCormick referred to himself as old, and I'm taking that out of context, but just take note of that going forward here. I think there may be some different definitions of that. It's all subjective. Excuse me, Newt, on the softball side, things end in the postseason against Mason. Obviously, Mason's a very good team, and you wind up losing that one to finish the season at 9-19 overall. So not the win-loss record any of us would hope for, but we also saw that you had a lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomores playing up at the varsity level, and so really had to kind of learn on the fly, had to go through the growing pains that a lot of young kids have to go through when they're playing up. As was the case here. How do they plan on using kind of the learning process and maybe some of those growing pains this year as they go into the off season here and try to improve?
Well, and that's the thing, running into Mason there at the end of the year, and it seems like that is a reoccurring pattern every year. We run into one of the GMC buzzsaws, Dakota East, Dakota West, Mason at the end of the year in a tournament. And that's just part of it. Super proud of our coaches and our girls in that, they definitely did struggle. We lost a ton of kids into this year. And then we knew things had to go our way. To have a super successful year in the terms of wins and losses and stuff like that. But the kids did great. Katie Wegman broke the school record for triples and for doubles. So we had some super performances. We've got 2 girls that are going to be signing tomorrow that are going to go play college softball, in Grace Ward and Grace Trapp. So, the success of how many wins you had versus, what determines successful season. Our girls towards the end of the year were playing the best softball that they've played all year. And that's huge. Lily Conley, Georgia Conley, Katie Wegman, again, there are juniors that were leading the team. You got Katie Carper, who's a senior, who really didn't even play much softball at all coming into high school, then goes and just dives into getting pitching lessons and comes out and has a very good year for us. And and gets the W in the first round of the tournament. So there's a lot of success stories in this year, and what they have to just do is build on the adversity that they faced and how they overcame it. And that's what we'll build into next year. And it's like I've told kids, you're going to fail. You have to fail. That's the only way you're going to grow. And there were times where we failed in certain parts of the game, but we're going to learn from it, and they're going to get better. And from this year, we'll have a better squad next year.
Newt, I'll stick with you talking about girls lacrosse here, and they're going to get Lakota East to open up the state tournament. You got potentially Loveland in round 2 should you get by Lakota East. So not an easy path for you to try to make a run here. We all know what Loveland did on the lacrosse field on the girls' side here. We look at the way the things shake out for your team going into the summer. You're going to lose a number of seniors off this year's team, but you're going to get Kennedy Cold Iron back. And what a year she had. Finished the regular season with 37 goals. That's 4th best in the ECC. So really carrying your offense at times as the season has gone along here. What have the coaches said about Kennedy's growth on the season and her ability next year to step in and be that senior leader to take your next step going forward?
Well, they're super excited about that. And that's the one thing, in any sport, if you can't score, you are going to struggle mightily. And so when you have that player that has the ability to score, and as you said, 37 goals, I believe that was good for 4th in the league. When you have that player that has the ability to score when she wants, I mean, she creates her own shot. That's huge. That's huge. And what she's going to do, and I should say this, the challenge for her will be, how is she going to make the other players around her better? And so, next year we know she's going to score her goals. She's going to get her 37 or 40 goals. Okay. But how is she going to make the players around her that are some of the JV players coming up, or some of the varsity players that didn't get as many minutes this year? What's she going to do to help them? And I know Kennedy pretty well, and she's an outstanding young lady and a great family. Her brother was a very good basketball player here. So I know this, she's going to do everything humanly possible to make our team better next year. And it's exciting that you got the go-to person when you need that goal. And that's what's going to need to happen tonight. She's going to have to step up and play big. Alyssa Grody in the goal is going to have to step up and play big. Robin Johnson, Olivia Leonard, Reese Kincaid, those girls that our team relies on, it's tournament time. So they're going to have to step up and play big. I'm going to give you the secret weapon when you airing this, because I don't want Lakota East to hear this. Is this
it'll be out sometime later on Tuesday.
Okay.
They'll probably.
I don't want them hearing this.
They probably won't pick up on it until after. So I think.
Okay. I'm telling you, Ryan Armstrong. You remember that name? Ryan Armstrong's going to play huge tonight. Put a couple goals in, and we'll be cheering. That cheese wagon will be rocking on the way home back to Forest Road tomorrow. Ryan Armstrong, you got it here. Don't tell anybody.
I didn't say anything. I just told you when it would be out there. Zach, let me bring you in on something Newt touched on there, in getting back to a Kennedy Cold Iron and the process for her, being the leading scorer this year. But then, as Newt said, the challenge will be next year. How do you become that team leader? How do you make other people better? You've been in that situation before as a former athlete yourself, playing basketball. What's that process like when you are the person, you are the number one that the other teams are trying to stop, and your job now is to try to make everyone else around you better?
I think she'll do incredible at that. But I mean, when I was watching The Last Dance with Michael Jordan over COVID, and he was talking about being a leader and never asking his teammates to do anything that he didn't do, meaning that he worked harder than anyone, and never asked anybody to do anything that he didn't do. I think that touches so many people. And I think Kennedy, she is a hard worker. I mean, heck, she's out there in the tennis courts still. And I mean, not tennis season. You know, she's just naturally a worker, and I think that she is going to really. It all boils down to how much work you put in, and then kids will start to see that, and then they'll follow. Hopefully, the other kids will put in more and more work in the off season, and then she has naturally the personality, which is awesome. That kids just kind of gravitate towards her and follow her just because she's big, bubbly personality that everybody kind of loves. So she comes from a great family, like Newt said, and she's about all the right things. So she's an easily followed kid, and definitely with the work that she's going to put in the off season, there's no doubt that she's going to be primed up and ready to roll to be a leader next year for that team.
So keep in mind, Lakota East, the secret weapon is Michael Jordan and The Last Dance. Just that's our secret weapon going forward. Zach, let me stick with you on the boys side of things in lacrosse. It's the third round of the state tourney. They're going to get top seed Marymount here after you beat LaSalle in the opener here as you started in the second round of the tournament here. Marymount heads into this tournament here as one of the favorites overall, and they've their administration's openly talked about with this boys lacrosse team that they feel like they realistically should be in there in contending for a state championship. And so you're going to try and upend that in the third round of the state tournament here. I'm wondering from your perspective, how much would an upset here of Marymount really just make the season for this boys program?
I mean, any tournament game win is incredible, but to beat a team like the Yankees, we call them, in Marymount, I mean, my goodness, that would be absolutely incredible. But that's why you play the game. I mean, if they just seeded everybody and then you just stuck them in as whoever had the best season, I mean, sometimes they don't always win in the playoffs. So all it takes is one day to be better than that team and one game. So that's why we play it. And Coach Pat will get our kids' minds right. I mean, everybody knows about Marymount and knows kind of the caliber of lacrosse that they have. But I mean, our kids are going to be, it's all about the mindset and go out there, because for them, they got everything to lose and we got nothing to lose right now. It's the way that everybody's looking at it. So we got to go out there with the right mindset and just give them our best shot. I mean, that's why you play the game. So I'm excited for it. I think it'll be fun, and hopefully we can shock some people and get a W there.
Do you get the sense that the boys are aware that Marymount is the favorite, and maybe not just necessarily in this matchup, but going forward, and they are going into it with a, hey, we have nothing to lose mentality?
I mean, they all know about Marymount, but they're going to go out there and they have an attitude of, let's go. I mean, they're supposed to be the best in the state. Let's see where we are. You know, I mean, lacrosse has not been at Anderson for that long and not been an OHSAA sanctioned sport for too long. And we're trying to get to that level, and hopefully eventually we will get to that level. And this is a good testing point to see where we are. But I think our kids will be ready and they'll have the right mindset of, I mean, hey, let's go. We got to go play the game. They're going to get dressed in the morning just the way that we are. So we'll see what happens that day, and hopefully we'll come out with it.
Jason,
let me switch. Yeah, go ahead.
It was awesome last night. Our kids were so excited. It was so cool to watch tournament lacrosse, and the boys were fired up, and there was just a totally different feel than there's been all season long, and that was so refreshing to see. And our kids are excited about the opportunity. And as Zach said, Jeezel Pete's, we know who who Marymount is. And, there's no downplaying that. They are a great team, perennial powerhouse. Okay. But we also know the game's played out on the field. And, as we've said 1,000 times before, we just got to be better than them on Thursday. What is that? May 20th for a 2-hour time limit. And that's it. And that's all we got to be better. You've heard of Phi Slamma Jamma, the Houston Cougars going down to the North Carolina State Wolfpack. Okay. Villanova beating Georgetown. I mean, it happens. And the great thing about it is the simple fact that our kids can pin their ears back and just play hard. And that's what I think that they will do Thursday night.
Zach, you'll have to Google what Newt is referring to with Houston and NC State and Villanova.
Hey,
and
I'm a
Georgetown.
junkie, baby. I've seen that. I've seen that.
That might have been a little
times.
before your time. That might have been a little before your time. I'm just saying.
YouTube.
There you go. See, he's all over, folks. Newt, let me switch over to you here and let's move on. Let's talk about the track and field teams there. Of course, obviously, you just hosted the ECC championships over the weekend there. The boys finished 5th overall. The girls finished 4th. Take us through the 2-day event there, how things ran. Did we set any more records as far as cleanup goes on the hurdles, things like that? Did we get the spicy Mets back? All those types of things there. How did the whole event run, and also the performances from your teams?
Well, first of all, as I sent an email out to our to all the coaches from the ECC and the athletic directors, it was an absolute blast. Mother Nature definitely helped. There's no doubt about it, because it was beautiful, 2 beautiful nights on Wednesday and last Friday. But I have to say, since we started hosting this ECC championship, without a doubt, it was the best one. Every single team that was here was incredibly organized and ready to go. Every single team here was incredibly respectful to everything. It just makes you sit back and think, when everything's done and over with, how lucky you are to be in the league that we are in. And there's a lot of classy people out there, classy kids, classy coaches, and they really showed up on Wednesday and Friday. So with that being said, it was a ton of fun, man. We had PRs. I know this. We had at least 20 PRs that were set by our kids. And remember what we've talked about before in the past. You can't play defense in track as much as you want to. So the only thing you can focus on is making sure you're doing better at that particular event than you've done all year. And over 20 kids of ours did the best they've ever done. So was it good enough to win an event? Not for most of them, but it was good enough to see that the work that they have put in, they have improved. And what that leads to is continuing to do that work more and more throughout the summer and throughout the off season to make sure they're ready to go. But I mean, we had incredible performances. Paige Elliff, I mean, how about this? In her last ever meet at Anderson High School, she breaks her own discus record and shot put record that had been broken earlier by Aiden Orth, who came in second as well. So, I mean, just performances like that. Catherine Dorsey, I remember a couple of weeks ago, Catherine Dorsey kind of hitting a wall and not being able to get her time down. And just to watch her trust in herself and trust in her coaches. And she was working to get under a minute in the 400. And she not only gets under a minute, she blows out a 58. That is incredible. Sam Mizukawa, Leah Mizukawa, both setting PRs. I can't wait. I got a great picture of them that I'm tweeting out today. You got, this is the awesome stuff. You got mom and dad up there watching, and your 2 kids are performing, and they both are setting personal records. I mean, it's Wednesday and Friday were 2 of the best days that I have had here being at Anderson High School. So we're going to take what we learned there, and we're going to put it into play Wednesday and Friday as we go and try to get out of these districts here and get up to regionals.
I want to get your thoughts there on, you mentioned Paige Elliff and the record she just keeps breaking of her own with the shot put and the discus. She's done it multiple times this year, breaking school records there. How do you evaluate her chances in particular in getting out of the districts and advancing beyond?
Well, first of all, I can tell you how I evaluate. I evaluate it by sending her mom and dad a bill for how many times we've had to get the record board changed. And then I can tell you this, our coaches, again, they do a great job of coaching the kids, keeping both eyes on the kids, but they also keep one eye on everybody else. And so our coaches know exactly what she's got to do. And Paige knows what she has to do to keep advancing in this tournament. And I think that the important thing for Paige, and I know she'll do this, is just trust in herself and not worry about what everybody else is doing, but just trusting in herself and make sure she's performing to the best of her ability. And you know what? If somebody throws 4 feet more than they've ever thrown before to beat her, then you can't do anything about it. But if she underthrows and doesn't perform to the best of her ability, that's when we have an issue. So we definitely want to keep an eye on what's going on in front of us, but we want to make sure we're performing to the best of our ability. And if she does that, I think good things are going to lie ahead for her, and I think good things are going to lie ahead for Aid North as well in the shot put and discus. So we're excited about that, and it couldn't happen to a better kid. I mean, Paige is just, she's unbelievable. She's been a 3-sport athlete every single year here at Anderson High School.
Let's switch gears and let's talk about your tennis team here, and we'll focus here today on Payson Scott. He finished 3rd at the sectionals. That's good enough to get into the districts here, and he'll be going into the districts here this coming week. This is the final run for Payson Scott at Anderson. Obviously, he'll be moved on to the college level in the fall here. Zach, talk to us about Payson off the court, and then ultimately his career as a tennis player at Anderson.
Just an incredible kid. I was up there all day at ATP, and I don't know if he had more fun beating people or if he had more fun cheering on every one of his teammates. I mean, I had to tell him in the middle of this, hey man, relax. He's running to every different court. I'm like, dude, you got to play soon. Like, come on, we're going for some big stuff here. And he's running around trying to keep track of everybody else. But that just goes to show the kind of kid he is. He's an unbelievable teammate. He's obviously had an incredible year, incredible career. You feel so terrible for him last year of just missing out because he was primed and ready to go last year. I mean, you saw the amount of work that he put in. And you just, I mean, your heart breaks for all those spring athletes last year, but especially somebody like him. But then he didn't pout and moan about it. During COVID and the quarantines and all that stuff, he was out on the tennis courts and he was working. And you can tell because this year, he's played some hammers too. And he's done incredibly well. I mean, his record speaks for itself. ECC champion, qualifying for the districts. I mean, this kid he is just an unbelievable kid who is an incredibly hard worker, that all good things come to people who work for it. And I'm telling you, he worked for it, and he has been an unbelievable teammate to all of his kids too. It's just been a true treat to watch somebody like that. And especially after last year, to see the success that he's having now, it just makes you feel good. It's why you do this kind of job, is to see stories like that unfold.
The tournament took place up at ATP, right across the street from Kings Island. Newt, do you think Payson could hear you from atop the beast?
Well, unfortunately, I was not able to be there. So Zach, he brought the bullhorn and all of that, the cowbell and all that, and he took good care of me. But I can tell you this, I did feel terrible about that, and I texted him, and Payson made me feel better by saying, Coach Newt, don't worry about it, man. I know you're there and stuff like that. So, but I tell you what, my tail end is going to be there Thursday morning screaming. I got to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure where it is, but it could be in Alaska right now, and my butt's going to be sitting in there screaming for him. So we're fired up about that, and we're anxious to see where Payson can take us all.
As we're winding down here on the spring sports season finale, it's the final episode of the school year for us here on the podcast. I mentioned last week there was a bit of news we had to discuss here on this week's show, and it's now time to discuss that. Today's the final time we're going to talk Anderson sports here on the podcast with Zach McCormick. He is leaving Anderson at the end of the school year for a new opportunity. Zach, I'm going to get your thoughts, your final thoughts on your run at Anderson here in a moment. But Newt, let me start with you. As Zach preps to move on to a new opportunity, what's going to stand out most to you when you reflect back on your time working together?
Well, the kind of heart that Zach has, and Zach is an interesting individual in the fact that, people around Anderson Township, they remember him as cold-blooded killer out on the basketball court. And he would slice you and dice you. And he would carve you up any way possible out there because he is such an incredible competitor. And there is no doubt about it. But the thing that Patty and I have learned about him, and again, in our research, before we hired him, he has one of the best hearts in the world. And you wouldn't think that from what he does to people out on the basketball court, but he absolutely loves helping young men and women achieve greatness and to be better, and would go to any lengths to do that. And that is definitely something that I'm going to miss, because, he made me a better person by having, we had a number of talks, but he made me a better person in this, the 2 years that I've got to work with him. But definitely our kids are going to miss him a ton, because they felt each kid was the most important kid there was out there, because Zach made him feel that way. And that's what I'm upset and I'm disappointed. I'm happy for Zach that he's moving on. Selfishly, I'm going to chain him to his chair so he can't leave. But I'm going to miss definitely the type of character, because we want those kind of people at Anderson. We want we want people that put kids first. And losing one of those is very difficult.
Zach, I'm going to leave the final word here on the podcast for you. The floor is yours to address Anderson High School, Newt, the Anderson fan base, however you so choose, as you do so for the final time here on the podcast. Floor is yours.
Oh, that's killer. Just ripping on my heartstrings there. Why don't you, Jace? No, I don't even know where to start. It's just, Anderson has been such a special place. It's opened I was in the business world before this, and I was a young 23-year-old kid when I started here who really didn't know what he wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to be either coaching or in athletics in some way. And this, Mr. Fellows and Mr. Fender actually was in my interview, and Sherry Snyder, Pat Thatcher. I can remember everybody who was in that interview. And definitely Patty over here. She's looking at me like, but it's just, they gave me a chance. There's so many people who knew me as a basketball player, and I definitely, there's been so many things that I would change about how I acted and said things, and just, you portray yourself as such a different person on the court than what you are outside of the court. And now that's my biggest challenge so far. But this is why I love doing this type of thing, is because I want people to know me for Zach McCormick, the person, and for trying to help kids, because I truly want to help every single kid and make every single kid feel important and help them be the best person that they can be. Because I had so many great mentors that did that to me to help me get to where I'm at, which you can never do it alone. And even though I'm moving on, which I'm incredibly excited about, I would never be able to do it without Patty and Newt. Newt's been the best male role model I've ever had in my life, which I've told him that before. And he's helped me as a man, as a person, as a son, brother, as a future husband. There's so many things I could go on and on forever. And then I got my second mom over here is Patty. And she's like, what are you going to say about me? No, but she's been incredible to me. This just shows the type of relationship that we have. Is she's leaving the other day at 3:30 and she texts me. She says, "Hey, you need to go get a new license plate. You're expiring soon." That's just the type of relationship that we have. And man, the administration here, everybody, from the top down, Mr. Fellows, I mean, the leadership in this building is going to puts itself, Anderson High School is going to be so successful in the future, for a long, long time because of the great people they have working here. But the most important thing is the kids, man. And that's what's going to be the toughest thing to me is definitely these kids, because they've held a special place in my heart. And there's so many of them that are giving me crap already about going over there. But man, they have just been an absolute joy to work for and to get to know. And one thing that I didn't know that I was going to enjoy so much about this job is I didn't realize I like to learn so much. And I really learned so much from the kids. I really do. I learned something new almost every day from these kids. And I always want to grow to be the best person I can be. And these kids really, really, really help me do that. And they help me find peace with myself and kind of find who I want to be, who I want to grow into. So, man, these kids, it's going to be tough saying goodbye to them, but Anderson has been an unbelievably special place to me. And I'll forever be indebted to Newt, to Patty, to Rob, to all of Anderson High School and Forest Hills, because they have meant so much to me, and they always will be. Besides being in the Wolf Pack now, I'll be always silently cheering for Anderson and hoping the absolute best for every single person here in this school and every single kid. I just appreciate everyone so much. And like I said, I could go on forever, but I just want to thank everybody and for this opportunity and for giving me a chance.
Very well said. It is it's never goodbye. It's just see you later. And obviously, I'm sure it's not the last we'll be hearing of you as you move on to a new venture here. And we know that you'll be bugging Newt from time to time. I wish I had some kind of funny anecdote, because I know the serious stuff is not really our style here on the podcast.
But Jason, I'm gonna work his butt off for the next couple weeks. Now I'm just
there you get him out there cutting the grass.
Oh, cutting the grass.
Because I know that
he's cutting the grass with scissors, brother.
Thank you. At least send him out the right way.
You ain't kidding. He's gonna find out what work is, man.
We'll keep track of that, and please post some pictures and videos of that on social media, because and make sure that we're tagging him properly in all of that as well, so we can send him off properly. But it's been a blast having all these weekly conversations with you, Zach, not only here on the podcast, seeing you out at all the events. When we're broadcasting Anderson Sports here in ESP Media, you're coming on at halftime and talking about all this kind of stuff, and trying to not take the orange and black paint off your face and all that good stuff. And we know that's going to continue, but we certainly wish the best of luck to you in your next adventure. Also tying the knot over the summer. So we definitely want to send an advance congratulations on that. We thank your fiance again for allowing us the use of your Wi-Fi at times when you've had to broadcast at home. Hopefully your toilets are still running nice and smooth, and the dogs are cooperating at home as well. And we'll continue to do so. See, I eventually got it out. I eventually had, I couldn't leave us on a somber note here. So I just revert back to toilet humor from a few weeks back. Folks can go back and watch that once again. But nevertheless, that's going to wrap up our time here on the podcast today. My thanks to Anderson AD Chris Newton, and one final time, Anderson Assistant AD Zach McCormick, for joining us for the spring sports season finale of This Week in Anderson High School Sports here in ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.